In the latest episode, Yuhan persistently attempts to invite Haejun for dinner, but she continuously brushes off his invitations with excuses. However, in a final desperate plea, Yuhan boasts about his knowledge of exceptional restaurants, specifically recommending the renowned tteokbokki establishment. A palpable silence fills the room as all eyes turn to Haejun. Yuhan passionately implores her, emphasizing the regret she'll feel for missing out on such an esteemed dining experience. Yet, Ihan's intense glare towards Yuhan halts the conversation abruptly as he swiftly intervenes, graciously thanking Haejun for her time. Rising to her feet, Haejun casually dismisses the gesture, insisting it's simply part of her duty to assist. As Yuhan observes their interaction, suspicion creeps in, wondering how they could possibly be in a relationship when they can't even maintain eye contact. Suddenly, Haejun suggests discussing a VIP ward with Ihan, only to be swiftly brushed off under the pretext of Ihan's busy schedule and hunger. Yuhan's gaze intensifies towards Ihan, convinced of his frigid demeanor as the reason for his perpetual single status. Yet, Ihan suggests that if Haejun's matter is urgent, she could join them for dinner to discuss it further. Unexpectedly, Haejun and Ihan dive into a discussion about dinner plans, ultimately deciding on pork cutlets, much to Yuhan's astonishment. Haejun, eager to finish her remaining work, requests Ihan's patience, to which he happily obliges. Perplexed by their behavior, Yuhan struggles to comprehend the unfolding dynamic between them. At the restaurant, Yuhan revels in the deliciousness of the cutlets and marvels at how Ihan even discovered this gem of a place. Ihan casually responds that Haejun has a penchant for pork cutlets. Turning to Haejun, Yuhan inquires if she truly enjoyed the meal, to which she confirms, likening it to the quality served in the cafeteria. Yuhan, with a gleam in his eye, expresses his surprise, questioning whether the cafeteria's cutlets are truly that remarkable since he happens to adore them too, hinting at a future visit. He then turns his attention to Haejun, expressing his desire to gift her something special. Haejun dismisses the notion of a gift but recalls the tie she used to staunch his bleeding that night. Yuhan, taken aback, realizes it was a necktie and admits to discarding it, much to Haejun's dismay. He offers a heartfelt apology, explaining his state of confusion during the emergency. To shift the focus, Ihan generously shares his cutlet with Yuhan, urging him to finish it. Yuhan, surprised by Ihan's gesture, questions why he's sharing his food. Ihan's sarcastic retort prompts Yuhan to accept the offering, finding it intriguing that Ihan, for the first time, is sharing his food. As the conversation continues, Yuhan casually asks Haejun about her choice of cardiothoracic surgery, acknowledging its reputation for difficulty. Haejun confirms its challenges and advises Yuhan, with a touch of arrogance, to steer clear of the department if he ever aspires to become a doctor. Unfazed, Yuhan responds confidently, asserting that it was already part of his plan. Intrigued, Yuhan presses further, questioning Haejun if she had the chance to go back in time, would she still choose the same department? Haejun's response is resolute as she explains that she made a promise, even though the person involved isn't aware of the department she ended up in. Yuhan probes, curious about the identity of this person she made such a significant promise to. He questions the significance of such a promise, typically reserved for someone important. Haejun agrees, acknowledging the importance of this individual to her, regardless of whether they remember the promise or not. She gazes at Ihan, elucidating that while it may seem peculiar, we all make promises with the sincere intention of honoring them even if it seems foolish, as there could be someone, somewhere, watching. Ihan, understanding her sentiment, expresses his belief in her words. Suddenly, Haejun feels her heart race as she locks eyes with Ihan. After the dinner, Ihan strides towards the reception to settle the bill, but Haejun attempts to halt him. Yet, Ihan confidently suggests to Haejun that Yuhan possesses exceptionally sharp ears. Suddenly, Yuhan interjects, questioning why they're standing there so awkwardly when they're supposed to be a couple. Undeterred, Haejun resolves with determination to pull herself together after coming this far. As they depart the hotel, Yuhan requests Haejun and Ihan to wait for him as he plans to make a pit stop at the convenience store. With a teasing tone, he asks Ihan if he desires anything as well. Ihan dismisses his inquiry, cautioning that they'll leave him behind if he takes too long. In the midst of waiting for Yuhan, an uncomfortable silence ensues between Haejun and Ihan. Seizing the moment, Haejun decides to break the tension by initiating a conversation, suggesting they hang out with his brother later that evening. However, Ihan abruptly cuts her off, suggesting that she won't be compensated for today if they do. He further adds that if she didn't wish to hang out, she should have declined from the outset, as keeping Yuhan around won't benefit her. Haejun defends herself, stating she couldn't refuse Yuhan as he's just a kid. Ihan probes further, questioning if there's something she wants to ask him. After a brief moment of contemplation, Haejun remarks that he and his brother are strikingly similar. Irritated, Ihan vehemently denies this, insisting it's absolutely untrue. Haejun persists, asserting that they do bear resemblance, despite the significant age gap between them. Yihan reveals that Yuhan is actually 16 years younger than himself. Reflecting on their strained relationship, Haejun expresses surprise, expecting them to clash like wealthy heirs in dramas, with both vying for control of the family company, leading to division among the board members. Yihan's words pierce through the air, echoing around Haejun as she listens intently. Spotting Yuhan across the road, Yihan's voice rings out as he shouts, posing a question that hangs heavy in the air: what would Yuhan do if he were tasked with taking over Seomoon Group? Without missing a beat, Yuhan responds confidently, stating that Yihan already knows the answer: he'd completely overhaul the company and transform it into an entertainment agency. Locking eyes with Haejun, Yihan emphasizes that this is the kind of person Yuhan truly is. As Haejun attempts to discreetly withdraw her hand from Yihan's grasp, he tightens his grip, subtly urging her to keep it there, reminding her that Yuhan is still watching, quick to pick up on even the slightest cues. Yuhan's voice carries from the other side of the road, announcing his intention to visit another store in search of Pikachu bread. Turning back to Haejun, Yihan asks pointedly if that answers her question. Haejun responds swiftly, conceding that she must have misunderstood the situation, noting that Yuhan appeared indifferent when discussing his brother. She adds that while they may look alike, her brother-in-law is more outgoing, laughing and joking around. Annoyance flashes across Yihan's face as he comments that he can't tolerate Yuhan's facade, disliking him for his superficial behavior. Haejun struggles to contain her laughter, but upon seeing Yihan's permission, she bursts into giggles, apologizing amidst her laughter. Yihan then asks if he can pose a question to her as well, to which Haejun readily agrees. Slowly, Yihan begins to inquire why she dislikes him. Haejun, unable to hear him properly, requests him to repeat the question a little louder. Yihan remarks that they didn't have the chance to discuss this last time, prompting Haejun to question what he means by last time. Yihan reminds her of what she wanted to share with him, to which Haejun recalls with a blush, admitting that she simply wanted to caution him not to fall for her. Yihan stares at her dumbfoundedly as she explains that it's a recurring issue for her, leading to awkward and difficult situations. However, she assures him that she knows it won't be a problem for him. Just as the tension begins to dissipate, Yuhan comes running and shouting towards Haejun and Yihan, breaking the moment. Haejun feels relieved to escape the awkwardness and immediately engages in conversation with Yuhan. Meanwhile, Yihan stands beside them, reflecting that Haejun should have simply said that from the start. In the morning at Yihan's house, his father inquires about his unusual behavior, noting that it's his first visit in a while and he hasn't left his study. Yihan explains that he wanted to see if there were any remnants of their grandfather left in the house. His father solemnly states that their grandfather passed away long ago, and they've already sorted through everything, leaving only what remains in the study. Yihan presses further, asking about other items aside from the books. His father mentions that when they tidied up the study, Yuhan also took a few things to his room, but there wasn't much else. Sensing his son's curiosity, his father asks what specifically Yihan is searching for, but Yihan brushes it off, claiming it's nothing important. The conversation shifts as his father brings up a recent call from the head of Juhan Bank regarding a small incident at the gallery opening. Yihan, visibly irritated, scoffs at the notion that it was portrayed as insignificant. His father tries to downplay the severity, mentioning that while Yuhan may have been injured, it wasn't too serious. Yihan clarifies that it wasn't just about Yuhan's injury, there were hurtful words exchanged that day, and the daughter of Juhan Bank's leader knows exactly what transpired. Despite his frustration, his father advises Yihan not to let personal matters affect their business, to which Yihan reluctantly agrees. Moving on, his father informs Yihan that their secretaries have likely reached out to his planning director, and they have a potential Arab royal client in need of heart surgery for the VIP ward opening. His father warns Yihan about the potential complications if something were to go wrong during the surgery, emphasizing the need for meticulous planning. With a confident grin, Yihan assures his father that everything will be fine, as he knows someone who always gives their best effort. At Jaeil Hospital, Haejun wanders through the lobby, lost in thoughts about Yihan from the previous night. Suddenly, she bumps into Juno, but she simply ignores him and continues walking beside him. Juno calls out her name, jolting her back to reality, and asks if she's alright. Haejun responds with a wry comment, finding it amusing for a cardiothoracic surgery doctor to express concern to an emergency medicine doctor, but she requests him to step back a bit as his presence is bothersome. Juno grins and reaches into his pocket, presenting an envelope to Haejun. He explains that it's just a gesture of kindness, considering their years of friendship, so it's the most he can offer at the moment. With a glimmer of hope in her eyes, Haejun thanks Juno for his contribution. However, her hope dwindles as she opens the envelope to find only 470,061 inside. Still, Haejun expresses gratitude towards Juno for bringing a smile to her face. Juno, with a hint of sadness, mentions that if only his stocks hadn't crashed the previous day, he could have given her an additional 200,000 won. Curious, Haejun inquires about which stock crashed, to which Juno reveals it was Juhan Bank. Haejun mentions she withdrew her savings from there, but Juno dismisses the idea, stating that it wouldn't have made a difference, especially considering the sudden withdrawal of foreign investors. Inwardly, Haejun smirks, feeling a sense of satisfaction that karma has caught up to Haeun. As Haejun notices her colleagues gathering outside the VIP ward, she bids farewell to Juno, mentioning her volunteer duties there. Despite the gloomy atmosphere among her colleagues due to the recent news about the VIP ward, Haejun cheers them up, exclaiming that the CS department is unbeatable. Yihan's former secretary, Mr. Yang, informs him that the VIP has just arrived at the new wing. Yihan inquires if there have been any updates from them. Yang understands them to mean the head of Juhan Bank and shares that they seem to have expressed their distress. Yihan remarks that it seems to be a familial trait, recalling how the leader's daughter shed tears that night as well. Yang adds that the leader vehemently denies any connection between the incident and Seomoon Group but indicates he will be visiting the hospital soon based on the information received. Yihan shrugs, stating it's his choice, and he can't prevent him from doing so. With that, Yihan and Yang begin heading down to the lobby. During their descent, Yang speculates that Haejun will be surprised when she hears about what Yihan did. Yihan dismisses the notion, stating there won't be any surprises. Yang questions why Yihan isn't planning to inform Haejun about it, mentioning that women appreciate it when someone consistently takes their side and looks out for them. Yihan raises an eyebrow, asking where Yang heard that from. Yang sheepishly admits he's seen it in dramas, suggesting it might be better to let Haejun know, especially since she's the reason behind all of this. Yihan's mind drifts back to a day when he was at his mother's home, seeking a favor from his father. His mother asks if he needs anything from her, mentioning small sparkly things she might know more about. Yihan notices Yuhan carrying a stuffed toy and scolds him for carrying such items at his age. Then, turning to his mother, he asks if she happens to be researching the best pork cutlet places in the country. His mother denies any involvement in such activities. Aunt Haejun also presses if Yihan doesn't need any favors from her either. Emphasizing that she's embarking on a month-long yacht excursion around the Yellow Sea tomorrow, implying it's his final opportunity to ask. Yihan exclaims, astounded, questioning if she truly purchased a yacht. Haejun confirms, elaborating that it's simply too mundane for her to remain landbound all the time. Yihan, aware of his aunt's immense wealth, her frequent travels between New York and Seoul, and her status as one of Korea's wealthiest individuals, queries which bank she utilizes in Korea. Despite being cognizant that blending personal matters with business often leads to complications, he still endeavors to seek justice for Haejun. Yihan finds himself perplexed by the lengths he's willing to go for her. Upon entering the lobby, he catches the voices of Juno and Haejun resonating. As Yang and Yihan observe them, Yang remarks that they likely share a friendship. Noting the presence of two other specialists from Haejun's department, Yihan comments on Haejun's claim of perpetual busyness, yet judging by the scene before him, he surmises that isn't always the case. Reflecting on Haejun's statement from the previous day, Han ponders what she meant by asserting that people can't resist falling for her. As Yihan begins to stride towards his office, Yang questions why he won't greet Haejun, despite her proximity. Yihan vehemently denies any such intention. Suddenly, Yihan flinches upon hearing someone calling out to Haejun, his instincts instantly alerting him. Yihan's instincts, never faltering in both his personal and professional realms, discern that the individual calling Haejun's name, none other than Chon-sung, won't settle for mere friendship with her. Chon-sung strides purposefully towards Haejun, bluntly remarking on her recent absence and her sudden appearance now. He pointedly notes her frequent companionship with Juno, insinuating that their closeness might spark dating rumors. With a vindictive smirk, he boldly questions if they're an item, expecting a reaction. Haejun opts not to engage in a verbal sparring match, simply suggesting that he should leave if he's busy and they need to proceed. Yet, undeterred, Chon-sung persists, prodding if she's truly intent on departing. He reminds her of their shared past as classmates and current status as colleagues, highlighting her perceived favoritism towards Juno. Suggestively, he proposes they prioritize sending their doctors ahead to indulge in a coffee break. Haejun bristles with annoyance at Chon-sung's persistent jabs, but she reins in her emotions, offering a composed response that they have pressing patient matters to attend to. Chon-sung dismissively questions why she, as a fellow, is involved in making the rounds, suggesting she delegate the task. He further needles her, implying her inability to do so due to a shortage of staff. Yang interjects, urging Haejun to assert herself against Chon-sung's taunts. Yihan, growing frustrated, recalls Haejun's past reluctance to confront her superiors. However, a colleague steps in to defend Haejun, inciting even more irritation from Chon-sung, who incredulously questions the involvement of a resident in a conversation between senior doctors. Despite the mounting tension, Haejun remains silent, her glare fixed firmly on Chon-sung. Chon-sung arrogantly suggests that perhaps Haejun has only been pretending to be busy, asserting that it's acceptable for him to go ahead since they're the ones bringing in revenue and should thus enjoy certain privileges. With that, he begins to stride towards the elevator. However, his path is abruptly blocked as Haejun's leg swiftly swoops in, preventing the elevator doors from closing. She confronts Chon-sung, demanding to know where he thinks he's sneaking off to. Taken aback, Chon-sung questions her sudden assertiveness, querying if she's addressing him. Haejun asserts herself firmly, affirming that she was indeed addressing him and she isn't one to merely talk big without following through. Chon-sung attempts to suggest they discuss the matter elsewhere, but Haejun disregards his suggestion and directs his colleagues to exit the elevator. Their hesitation prompts Haejun to clarify that it's not a major issue, rather, it's about her former classmate and their senior doctor's insistence on speaking with her. She insists they vacate the elevator. Chon-sung, taken aback, questions if Haejun is genuinely upset about being in the elevator ahead of him. Haejun clarifies that she's not upset but rather angry, emphasizing that their relationship has never been particularly close. Haejun launches into a narrative about Shansung's entry into the OS department, asserting that while his academic prowess likely played a role, it was also because she relinquished her spot to him. She reveals that she was the top scorer on the national exam that year but chose to join CS instead, leaving an opportunity for Chon-sung. With conviction, she suggests that his life trajectory owes something to her decision. When Chon-sung attempts to interject, Haejun cuts him off, adamant about making her point. She recounts how the head of his department pleaded for her to join OS, but she remains steadfast in her commitment to CS, asserting that she would make the same choice again and again. As she strides toward the elevator with her colleagues, Chon-sung tries to downplay the situation, questioning if she's truly reacting so strongly to a few comments he made. Haejun fixes him with a piercing glare, warning him that while she might be the one he's addressing now, any mistreatment of her colleagues will not be tolerated. With a parting shot, she emphasizes that she reserves her choice language for friends, implying that Chon-sung is far from that category. Yang, taken aback by Haejun's unexpected display of assertiveness, remarks on how he's never seen this side of her before. Meanwhile, Yihan recalls Yang's earlier suggestion about informing Haejun of his actions on her behalf. A subtle smile crosses his face as he considers this newfound understanding. Just as Haejun is fiercely protective of her colleagues, he too is fiercely protective of her, viewing any harm to her as justification for retaliation. In the VIP ward, the foreign patient's translator inquires about the duration of the upcoming surgery. Haejun estimates it will last between 3 to 4 hours. Curious, the translator asks if there are shorter procedures available. Haejun explains the existence of newer surgical techniques that bypass the need for stitches to secure the valve, but deems the patient too young for such methods. Despite the longer duration, she assures that it will ultimately yield a stronger and healthier outcome. She emphasizes their commitment to minimizing the strain on the patient's body, especially given the temporary cessation of the heart during the surgery. The translator relays this information to the patient and inquires if Haejun will be the one performing the surgery. Haejun questions if this question stems from her gender or age, halting the translator before he can pose it to the patient. Instead, she introduces herself to the patient in his native German language, reassuring him that she will approach the surgery as if it were her own heart, eliciting relief and gratitude from the patient. In the lobby, Haejun's colleague, Kyung-min, expresses surprise at her ability to speak German, prompting Haejun to explain that she learned it recently to earn a bonus. Despite the workload, she anticipates paying off her debt soon. However, she finds herself feeling unsettled despite the prospect of the imminent end of her financial burdens. Suddenly, Kyung-min shifts the conversation to the chairman's expectations regarding profit margins, prompting discussion about chairman's younger brother, Yuhan, who visited Haejun for a checkup. They inquire about Yuhan's demeanor, wondering if he fits the stereotype of a chaebol heir. The conversation takes a dark turn as Kyung-min shares rumors alleging that the chairman once attempted to throw his younger brother out of a window and obtained a firearm license due to Yuhan's actions. Haejun suddenly snaps, emphasizing that she has already addressed this issue before, so they, of all people, shouldn't indulge in gossip. Kyung-min and the other colleague quickly apologize for their remarks. Haejun clarifies that she's not defending Yihan, but rather cautioning against believing exaggerated rumors fueled by prejudice and bias. She draws parallels to their own department, highlighting their hard work and dedication despite skepticism. Similarly, she suggests the chairman may be subject to unfair speculation. Kyung-min acknowledges her point, considering that Yihan might indeed be a man of dedication and vision, with rumors originating from his youth and charisma. Haejun's voice slows as she considers an alternative perspective. Perhaps he's just an average guy who shows care and warmth in small gestures. She halts her thoughts abruptly, suggesting they proceed to eat, mindful of Kyungmin's impending surgery. As they head to the cafeteria, Haejun freezes in her tracks upon encountering Yihan and Yuhan. She greets Yihan formally as his employee, while the brothers pass by casually after exchanging pleasantries. Despite knowing it would be odd for them to share warm greetings, Haejun can't shake off a lingering sense of sadness. Her phone interrupts the moment, and upon reading urgent messages, she informs her colleagues that they'll have to dine without her, citing an unexpected workload.